Controlled opposition is essentially a means of playing two polar forces, polarized forces, off against each other, such that the required outcome is assured. You know that when you mix two different chemicals together, you get a certain compound. Well, if you understand how one particular polarized ideology works, and you also understand how the antithesis of that polarized ideology also works, when you pit these two polarized forces against each other, you are assured that the outcome is going to be geared in a certain direction. This is known as a dialectic. D-I-A-L-E-C-T-I-C, dialectic. Lecto lectere in Latin means to create, to make. Dia in Greek means through. So this is a vehicle of creation. The path that you would go through to create your desired outcome. That's what a dialectic is. It is a synthesis. It is taking two polarized forces, which the last caller referred to as thesis and antithesis. One thing and its opposite. Playing them off against each other, and in doing so, you have achieved a desired outcome that was pre-planned. No surprises, because you know how the chemistry of both of these polarized forces works to begin with. You know this because you created the dichotomy. You created that schism in the first place. So you know how they work, and in knowing how those polarized forces work, you are assured of the outcome with no surprises. And people who are rooted in a dominator mindset don't like surprises or deviations from their plans. They want things to work as smoothly as possible in ways that don't upset the apple cart and don't create anything that was unforeseen for them. That's how they work. So, I'm going to type into my Latin dictionary here. Lectere. Okay, it comes from lectus. It means chosen or picked, selected. So a bit off from created, which is what I originally brought up, but it is picking something out of a limited amount of choices. So dialectic would mean to steer in a certain direction through certain choices. And that perfectly describes what a dialectic is. You're looking to get from A to Z, and you want to steer the decisions by influencing the mind and the behavior patterns of individuals based on a dichotomy, two polar forces pitted against each other. So, the most widely recognized of these dialectics is politics. Politics is one that can clearly be seen to be a dialectic in this controlled oppositional paradigm. See, to get people to conform with your will and to think that it is their will, you need them to believe that they are doing something that they strongly believe in that is in opposition to something that is attacking their position. So you create two parties. You create conservative and liberal. You create Democrat and Republican. And then you influence someone to strongly identify, based on some of the tenets of these ideologies, you get them to strongly identify with these positions. And then you create the opposite. So a Republican wants fiscal conservation. They want to be conservative with the money that is spent. Then you create the opposite. You create the Democratic Party that will largely endorse tons of spending and government projects and nanny state incentives. And you get these two opposing viewpoints to constantly conflict with each other. You know, the Democrats will advocate Republicans will advocate imperialism and spending money on foreign policies that are interventionist most times. Democrats will advocate social reform programs and spending money on, giving people things that they aren't creating in and of themselves. So the nanny state programs, the being taken care of from cradle to grave, government as protector and caretaker. And this dialectic is constantly put forward in the media. And then you see the further controlled opposition. You have people in the liberal media, like on MSNBC. You have people in the conservative media, like on Fox News. And they're constantly hammering on each other's position and waging ad hominem attacks, etc., etc. And it's all simply for the show. It's all simply for the puppet show. To get people to think that there are real power invested in these institutions known as the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, and that the real leaders are voted for, they're elected from these parties, and that they have power and influence, and that voting is a solution for human freedom, and electing people to be your representatives is a solution for human freedom. See, this whole politics show, this whole dialectic, this whole pitting one side against the other, it was brilliantly described on his program by Alex Jones. It is indeed the Royal Arch, the strongest structure in architecture, in creating a structure, the arch. There's just about no stronger structure than the arch, because the two forces coming in from each side are creating an enormous amount of strength for that structure in their opposition and leaning against each other. Dialectical mechanics. It's a critical thing to understand about how mind control works